Hello, in this video I will show you my implementation of Milestone 2. So I will leave a link to the full playlist for the React Minesweeper clone, as well as to where I explain what Milestone 2 entails, which is basically adding just the styling on top of Milestone 1. So adding this outset bevel and then these two inset bevels. And the challenge here was also to create the diagonals in this way, not as a pure diagonal, but as a pixelated diagonal. And for this purpose, I gave you the three SVGs, this one, and this one, where the one that's directly diagonal to it is identical to this one. So let me just show you one of the SVGs. So basically this SVG is just a 3x3, right? It's got this diagonal light gray, this dark gray, and then this white. And these ones are pretty similar, just a little bit different. So as you can see, the outset bevel has white on the top and the left and dark gray on the right and the bottom. Whereas the inset bevels, the one that look like they're pressed inwards, has the reverse. So gray on the top and the left and white on the right and the bottom. And then you have a bit of padding here and some distance between this thing, which I call the top bar, the board top bar, and the board. And you also have some padding here. So when I implemented this, I first did it like with CSS on the board itself, and I dealt with all the issues. And then I went on to do it here, and I realized that I was repeating myself. So what I did was I created a reusable React component that I will show you in a moment. And it is reusable in the sense that it can work for this, it can work for this, it can work for this. So you basically have to make it once and, but I didn't start off making the reusable React component. I started off just winging it with the outermost one. And then when I started to see that I'm repeating myself, I said, hey, let's try and make this into a component. Now there's one more thing I want to show you before we go into the code. So basically I coded all of Milestone 2 in a separate branch, which I called styling. And this is GitHub desktop. So basically in GitHub desktop, I go to preview pull request, which shows me, like, once I finished coding Milestone 2 and I'm happy with it, I want to push it into the main branch. So before I do that, very, very important, I go over all of my changes. So that's the good thing of working in a branch for a feature. I can go over my changes like this, and I can find any leftovers that I'm like, why did I leave this in the code? Let's erase it, let's delete it, let's fix it. So this is basically, these are all the changes I made, and I will push those into the main branch, and I leave in the description a link to Milestone 2, and you can, if you want, you can compare Milestone 2 and Milestone 1. But at this very moment, I haven't yet merged it, which is not a big deal. Now, let's head into my implementation, which I am, again, very proud of. So what I did, and like I said, I did not do this from the start, but I ended up creating a component called BevelledBox. So let me show you what this component does. So let's not return the game. Let's return a beveled box, okay, just to show you. And in the beveled box, let's write just hello. Okay, so this is what the app returns now. So you can see that it looks like this. Doesn't look very, very great. So what we're going to do is give the beveled box some of its, sorry, let me close all these. Let's give the beveled box some of its attributes. So is inset by default is true. And you need to give bevel width, padding, and children. So children is the hello. And padding, let's just add 3. And bevel width, let's just say 3. Okay, and let's do is inset equals false. So look at this. Look at this. It's perfect. It's a beveled box, right? It's got our special SVG for the corners, and it's got a padding around this word hello. And if I look at it, see how it looks like it's outset, it's like raised. I'm gonna just change is inset to true and check what happens. Kablam! It looks inset. It looks like it's inset into the layer, the opposite of outset. So this is the beveled box, and I love it. And if you change the bevel width, it uses this other SVG. So right now I have support for beveled width that's 3, either outset or inset, and 2, but we can always add more. And I'll give you a hint as to how I did that. Basically, the name of the file has like the number and whether it's inset or outset. And then the component knows how to take the right SVG for the corners. Okay, so let's put the app back to how it was. And let's see how I used that. Okay, so for the game, I basically, what we had before was just the board. Well, we had the smiley here, and then we had the board. So now I wrapped it all in a beveled box, right? So these are the children of the beveled box. And I told the beveled box that the inset is false because I'm trying to create this one, right? And this one is raised, so it's not inset. And the bevel width is 3 and padding is 6. Okay. I'm not sure if the padding is correct. I think it is, but like, you know, we can always play around with that later. Okay, so what that did was it created this beautiful box around the game. And we'll look at how beveled box is implemented in a minute, but I'll show you how it's used first. And in the board top bar, which is this thing, which contains the smiley, I also used a beveled box, and I gave it an inset of true because it is inset. It looks like it's inset, and the bevel width is just 2 pixels, right? And the padding is 4. The padding here, here, and here. And inside the children are the smiley button, and the final beveled box is the one that's around the board. So let's look at the board. As you can see, the board is also wrapped in a beveled box. So the beveled box is reusable, and I love that. And it does not dirty it does not mess up my components. Look how clean they are. They're as clean as possible. If I hacked each component to have a beveled box, they would start to be verbose and wordy and dirty and like it. I love this. Sorry that I'm like happy with myself so much, but I love this solution. So this is why I do these things, because you come up with solutions and you grow and you get better and you feel good about yourself. So in this case, the beveled box is inset and the width is 3. So here it was inset 2, here it was inset 3, and here it's outset 3. Okay. And that's why we have these corner 2, inset, corner 3, inset, corner 3, outset. And it was pretty easy to create these SVGs. You don't have to create them. I gave them to you. But like I said, I create them using Inkscape. Anyway. So now let's look at how the beveled box is implemented. So the beveled box has an SCSS file for it. So there is a bit of natural CSS to the beveled box, but some of the CSS has to be generated in code. Some of the styling, not the CSS, some of the styling has to be generated in code. And so it's a hybrid of both. So whatever I could, I put in the CSS, and whatever I couldn't, I put in the generated code. So for example, so the beveled box has 3 divs in it. It has this div with a class name of bevel, and it also has a class name of either inset or outset, depending on what prop you gave it. So it has bevel, it has corner overlay, and it has content. And this took me a while to figure out, right? All of these guys are siblings, right? Why is that? So what is the bevel? Let me comment this out. Look what happens. See? It turns into a diagonal. Why is that? Because the bevel div is basically a border where the border top is white, border left is white, border right is gray, and border bottom is gray. And the width of the border is 3 or whatever we told it to be. And here it's the opposite. Border top is gray and border left is gray, border right is white, border bottom is white, depending on whether it's inset or outset. And the whole purpose of this div, which is corner overlay, is to add an overlay on top of it where this is covered by the SVG, right? It's covered by this SVG. Isn't that awesome? And then what does this give us? This gives us that, if the board becomes larger, smaller, whatever, this expands naturally, right? This is just a border, an HTML, CSS border. And it'll just expand naturally, whereas this will not scale. This will look exactly as it looks now. The corner won't stretch in some strange way. And that is why this is an overlay. But you cannot have this as an overlay on top of what is contained, because then it won't be clickable. And that is why I put all of them as siblings. This is a sibling of this, is a sibling of this. And then I basically used a grid and put them all on grid area 1, 1, meaning they are all one on top of the other, but this guy has a Z index of 3, okay? So that is why this is clickable still. So I really love this solution. I mean, I love it. I wonder if you've come up with a brilliant, a good solution. I'd love to see it. I'm sure there are other ways to implement this, but I love this so much. So let's see what the hard-coded CSS styling is. So like I said, the beveled box is a grid, and then all of its direct children, and this is not good. I should use this, because some beveled boxes contain other beveled boxes, right? This one contains this one and this one. And this one will also contain a beveled box for these guys, right? This is also a beveled box with a bevel width of 1. So I want the beveled box to only affect its direct children, so that if you have one inside the other, it won't, spill over there. Okay, so the beveled box is a grid, and you can see that all of its children have a grid area of 1, 1. So they're all one on top of the other, and the content has a Z index of 2. So the content is raised compared to the others, which is why it's clickable and accessible. When I first started, I had the overlay on top of the content. That does not work. Yeah, so that's how I handled that. Now, let's see what else is here. I had to do some playing around with the stretching, the center, the stretch, whatever. I may not, some of this may be superfluous. I don't know. I think this is superfluous. Let's erase it. Yeah, I think that was unnecessary. And let's see what happens if I erase this. See what happens? This guy just makes itself compact. I don't want that. I want it to stretch. Okay. And justify content center is just why is it actually? Not sure. Let's erase it. It's not used. I'm erasing it. Okay. And now, what is the bevel? Remember, bevel is just this border. So what do we know about this border? We know that the border style is solid. I'm not even sure you need to specify that. Let's erase that. No, you have to specify that. Okay, you have to specify that the border style is solid. And the background color is light gray. What is the background color? It's actually this, right? It's basically what's inside of this border. So because this is how this application is built, it's always going to be light gray. So I think it's good to have it here. Now the bevel can also have a class of outset or of inset. And depending on which class it has, it'll have different colors for the border top and left, and the border bottom and right. So as you can see, the top and left here are white and the rest are gray. And here it's the opposite. The top and left are gray and the bottom and right are white, depending on whether it's an outset border or an inset border. So that's how I solved that, just by giving the BevelledBox a class name of either inset or outset. So now we have the outer border, but like I said, without this, let me comment it out just to show. We have this outer border with these nice diagonals, which in retrospect, this is what I should have done in the first place, but whatever. I wanted to challenge myself with the Windows XP skin. Okay, so that was the bevel. Now, what is the corner overlay? Very simple. It is an overlay on top of this whole grid, right? Let me show you the grid. See the BevelledBox? This is its grid. So the overlay is on top of the grid. And we want to give it an absolute position of top and right 0, and this one an absolute position of bottom left 0. So how do we do that? So the corner overlay has 2 divs in it. One is the corner top right, one is the corner bottom left. And the dynamic style of those corners is, hey, what is the SVG in it? What is the background image? So the background image is like corner 3 inset, corner 3 outset, and that depends on the props that you gave the component. Is inset and what is the bevel width? And obviously it's not going to support any number, you know, you have to have like the SVGs for the numbers that you're going to actually use in the app. And the height is also depending on the bevel width as well. And I'll explain the REM in a bit. Okay. So that is each of the corners. What do they have in their CSS? They have an absolute top right and an absolute bottom left, which is just a mix in, you know, just a mix in, where is it? A mix in of position absolute, top 0, right 0, or position absolute, bottom 0, left 0. And that's basically what makes them stick, what makes the SVGs stick up here and down here. Very, very simple. And the last thing is that they also have, see, they have include corner. They use the mix-in called corner. And all that does is give it an aspect ratio of 1:1 and a, you know, the background stuff, cover and no repeat, right? I just didn't want to copy paste that, so I left it this way. Alrighty. And the last thing is the content, which I told you. The content is a wrapper for the children. What is the children prop? If you remember, if you don't remember, I will remind you. So if I go to, for example, game, look at the BevelledBox. These are its children. So it's like taking all of this stuff and pushing it inside the BevelledBox, inside the content right here. Yes, so let's look at any other dynamic styling stuff. So we already said that the bevel itself gets a class of inset or outset, and that affects like the color of the top and bottom and left and right borders. What else does it get? It gets a style of border width, and the border width depends on the prop that you gave it bevel width, which can be 1, 2, or 3. I mean, I guess I could have also, instead of bevel width 1, 2, 3, I could have done bevel width small, medium, large, but I think it's fine. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And the corner style, I think we talked about this. Yes, we talked about the fact that the background image of the corner depends on the bevel width and whether it's inset or not, and also the height of the corner. So why do I only say height? Because I have aspect ratio 1:1. Where is it? Where is it? I have inside this mix-in, I already say aspect ratio 1:1. So if I specify a height, then the width is going to be identical to the height. So I don't like to specify both height and width if it's going to be a perfect square. In that case, I use aspect ratio. Okay. And what else is left? Did I finish everything? There's only get content style. Okay, and this is where the padding comes in. That's it. So the padding has to include both the bevel width, which is, let's say, 3, and the padding, which is 6. Why? Because, like I said, this content is not really inside this div. It's actually a sibling of this div. Okay? So, right, you have the beveled box, and in it you have 3 siblings. And that is why this guy needs a padding that is both the padding that you want here plus the width of the border. So yes, this took a bit of cleaning, but to get it to work right. But I'm so happy with it because now look, the game, look at how it looks. It's just wrapped with a bevel box, which is not inset, and it has a width of 3 and a padding of 6. And the board top bar, which contains the smiley button, this thing here, it just has a beveled box, which is inset, and the beveled width is 2, the padding is 4. And finally, the game, which is this thing, is wrapped with a beveled box that is inset and has a bevel width of 3 and a padding of 6. So what do you think? Is it cool? Is it cool? Is my implementation cool? Is my implementation not cool? What do you think? What is your idea? What was your idea? How did you implement it? I love clean code. I think code should be clean as possible. It builds our muscles and it prevents bugs. It makes everything more elegant, more compact, easier to expand and everything. Some people don't like writing clean code because they think it's a waste of time. I disagree. I think it takes me less time to write clean code. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I will get off my soapbox for now. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover with the implementation of Milestone 2. And I'm also happy that I will be ready for these guys. I will be ready for them because I already have the infrastructure of the beveled box to add them. So what else do I want to say? Is there anything else? I don't think so. I mean, I think maybe I added in the game CSS, I added an outline. So you can see that. See this outline? Tick, all the way around here. Let me comment it out and see what happens. See, it doesn't have an outline, so the white looks a bit strange. So I just added this outline onto the beveled box that is directly a child of the game. That's what this arrow means. And what did I do for the board top bar? I did this, that's why I didn't need. See, if I comment this out, look what happens. See, the smiley goes over here. I'm not sure I'll need that when I add those guys, those other guys. But for now, this is how it looks. And look how clean it is. If you made this have all the functionality of the beveled box, you would have all of this CSS copy pasted into the board top bar CSS and into the game CSS and into, several other CSSs. So I'm very, very proud of the beveled box. I hope you like it too. So let me stop my rambles here. I will leave a link to the, the branch where the Milestone 2 solution is at. And leave me a comment if you liked it. Leave me a comment if you watched this video. I know I'm making videos into the void. No one's watching them. Maybe in future someone will. But I'd love to hear your comments. So I'll stop now so that I don't ramble too much. Next milestone is Milestone 3. What will we do in Milestone 3? I think maybe we will add these guys. We'll add these guys. I think I'll leave for last the milestone where we have a dynamic board. So I think we'll add these guys. The counter, maybe just one of them. I don't know. The counter of bombs and the counter of timer. Or maybe just the styling for them, Maybe we'll just add them styling. And this is how I like to code. I like to ask myself, okay, what is the next chunk that I can bite, that I can do, where then I can resurface and say, okay, I have a stable product. And I don't like for the chunks to be too small or too big. So I'll think about Milestone 3, and then I'll post the next video about Milestone 3. So let me stop here before I talk forever. Bye.